we're all here, so there is none. Extraordinary business, I know of none. Does anyone else have any? No. Declarations of interest, any declarations? No. Item number 4 on the agenda is the COVID Response Committee meeting. Any additions, corrections on that minutes of that meeting? Page 3. On page 4. On page 5. Page 6. Someone like to move that they're an accurate record of that meeting. Liz and Lynette. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Carried. Okay. Next item of business is number 5, which is the draft government policy statement and draft NZ rail plan proposed regional submissions. And we have Brian Firth with us. Brian, if you'd like to come on, and anything further to add to your report?
Nothing, Neil, is this stage.
Okay. Councillors, any questions with Brian? John.
Yeah, the question I have is, I think the last one was done in 2018. Has anything happened to action on that report, and what is the point of these reports?
2015, the GPS would have been a national GPS. The 2018, I think, was the first GPS of the Labor government, and the main change is working on wellbeing as opposed to looking after the asset as such. It was more community involvement.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. We're sort of getting feedback, are we? Anyway,
I'm trying to control it here by muting Brian.
Yeah, that's it.
is it the same as the land transport policy? Is it taking submissions until May as well, or is this going to be the only submission from our council? I've got a lot of reservations about some of that stuff. They talk as if rail's going to be end all be all of everything, and we know we've got one railway line through our district, and the infrastructure, it's got to be trucks to get to the railway line. So I mean, the amount of money they're going to spend on rail and light rail, passenger rail, all this sort of stuff, to me, it's all very well to be integrated, but what really asking Brian, have they extended the submission time till May as well as the land transport?
Now I can't unmute Brian. Brian, you might have to unmute.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah. As far as I'm aware, this particular submission that we're putting in here is from the TOG group to the RTC. The RTC will then make their own submission as a result of what we're supplying to them, and that, I think, will be through to the May deadline.
Angus?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Brian, on page 10, the second dot point under general heading, we support the government's long-term vision for New Zealand's rail network to provide modern transit systems in our largest cities. Does that include Ashburton? I thought it was only Auckland they were doing. Would you like to comment? Cities, not city. I fully agree that and to enable increasing volumes of freight to be moved off roads onto rail, especially in the North Island, but it's just mean that we here in Ashton towards.
The two cities, mainly Wellington, obviously, with the Let's Get Wellington Moving, and Auckland with their undergrounding, etc. They're the two major pushes. There's a little bit of extra money in some of the other areas, Palmerston North, possibly Christchurch, but not anything large. The main emphasis is on those other cities.
Thanks, Brian. Brian, I don't think we've seen the councillors seen the been given the document, the proposal as yet, because I received it on Tuesday, and I just forwarded it to them all this morning, and there's actually a video on there, a presentation for the transport and the rail as well. So it's probably worth looking at that as well. But I don't know if have we had it before, or was it just turned up now?
My understanding is that the rail plan has been once before, but this is the first time that the GPS would have been with you.
Okay. Lynette?
My concern is, reading the both glossy documents here, they really are focusing on Auckland and Wellington, and only like safety features and stuff for the South Island, and they're looking at coastal shipping. They seem to roll this out every decade and get no further, but they don't talk about competitiveness in the industry, because that's where it always falls down. They're very expensive, and really for us in the South Island, there's nothing really there, and they don't even talk about widening the gauge. If they're going to start off again in railways and build her up, why aren't they putting a wider gauge, so at least we could have some fast trains in the regionals, because none of us are ever going to sit on a train to get it to Christchurch within an hour. They kind of need to look at the bigger, broader picture, instead of running all this old stuff again on narrow gauges. That was my concern reading both documents. It's like they're going to focus on everything on the railroad and kind of nothing on building motorways. That's kind of what I got out of it all.
Yeah, I think the rail only focuses for 3 years. Have you a comment there, or Brian, or not?
The rail plan, they're both 10-year documents, but with a 3-year time frame type, with the immediate effect. The rail, as I understand it, is in a pretty poor state across the country, and the main emphasis across the country is in maintenance of what they have at this point in time to get it up to a realistic standard that they can actually run the trains they need to run on the lines. Obviously, there is a major push in both Wellington and Auckland for metropolitan type travel, but from the rail, as we know it, the only real push there is for the West Coast one, the one that goes across from Christchurch through the Southern Alps, more as a tourist thing, but not sure when that will get up and running again.
Okay, Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Are we talking about one document now or two documents? One was land transport and one was rail, but they're sort of integrated. I object to road user charges subsidising the rail. I mean, if the rail can't stand on its own feet, why blazes have it? I mean, it's all the talk now is local, local, local. A farmer's going to have to turn around and cart all our stuff by truck to the rail to there and somewhere else. Well, we all know that went out years ago. We found it was completely uneconomic. So the South Island, especially with the production of agriculture as the future of the country looks like in the short, possibly medium term. Well, what good's the rail in the South Island going to be to most of it? because you can't cart potatoes onto a truck and then put them on the road as stock. You can't put them on the rail. And we all know how much it costs to part grain to the North Island. It was prohibitive on rail. They had to go across the Cook Strait and all the rest of it. So I think it's a complete story for urban Auckland and Wellington. And if they use road user charges, it's an absolute criminal thing to take our transport operators in this district subsidising rail in the North Island.
I think what I'm hearing here, and I've got a couple of hands up, is it possibly just needs a wee bit more work on this submission. But we'll take a couple more questions now. And Diane, you're there?
Yep, thank you. Yeah, I don't disagree with Stuart. I've read, it's great that we're getting the chance to submit, and that's always good, but that 53-page glossy, the first 20-odd pages, as I'm reading it, I'm sitting there thinking, this could cover any topic. It's just full of warm, fluffy, idealistic stuff that, yes, it's nice to have, but in practicalities, making it work and financing it is going to be a whole different ballgame. Yeah, ideally, rail would take some trucks away, but as Stuart said, I don't think anyone's ever going to go back to truck, rail, truck, ship, or however it was. So that's just my comment. But great to be putting in a submission, but yeah, maybe we need to be a bit firmer in it. That's me.
Diane, the glossy brochure you talk about, is that the one I sent you this morning?
No, there was two that we got to read in Stella. We were sent them about Tuesday from Philippa so that we could go into Stella and have a look at them before this morning.
Okay, thank you. Any comment for that, Brian, or not? Perhaps not.
Basically, as I understand it, what they're trying to do with rail is we had a freight study done in the South Island, and effectively it was to increase or would increase the rail package, if you like, of work from around the 4 to 5% that it currently carries up to 8%. And that was all that they considered that would be appropriate for the South Island situation. Even that small movement will take quite a large number of trucks off the highways, and they feel that it's well worth doing. And that came from the study that was done on freight movement by, I think, the mayors actually, the mayoral group put that together.
Yeah, Roger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being relatively new to this subject, I'm just wondering, in light of all the comments that have been made, how much influence do we actually have here? Because we know the history of rail in New Zealand over the last 50 years, that the track record, if I may use the pun, is not very good. So is it actually worth doing this, or do we renege on our responsibilities if we don't submit?
Right.
Yeah, my feeling is that the draft went through to government initially back in, I think it was November of last year. It's a first step to try and integrate coastal shipping, rail, and normal transport in the one area, whereas in the past, each one has been acting independently. So they're trying to bring them together to act as a whole, as one unit going forward. I take Councillor Wilson's point on the funding of it. I'm not quite sure where the funding is coming for the coastal shipping and rail portion. I doubt very much that it will be from road user charges, because we need all those for the actual transport side of things, rather than the coastal shipping and rail. So, as I say, it's a first attempt to bring all three into the one umbrella and being managed as a transport system for New Zealand.
Thank you, Brian. I think no more questions there, but I'm just thinking, and forget the committee's approval, that I don't think it's ready to go just yet. And perhaps if the the chair and the deputy of service delivery had a Zoom with yourself and worked through the document, and but I think they may want to add a few bits and pieces or clarify some things in there. Is that the committee got a feeling for that's the way we should do this? Yeah. Okay, so I'm thinking now strategically or for direction, do we let this lay on the table until our next meeting in a week's time? Stuart, you've got another question.
Yes. To me, there's two documents. There's the one about the rail, and there's also one proposed submission points on the draft government policy statement on land transport 2021, the other document that we got. I've got a lot of questions about that too. For a start, we don't call it NZTA anymore. We call it Wakatahi. Who on earth will understand what the earth we're talking about? I mean, it was transit, then it was NZTA, now it's Wakatahi. Well, to me, things have gone a bit mad. Anyway, the two.
Stuart, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah, Stuart, just come back.
One's on rail, and is one on rail and one on land transport. Because when you read that land transport document, there's stuff in there, once more, urban, 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 and you want to read page 30. Talk about gobbledygook. We're going to transfer industry to where the transport options are. In other words, farms are going to be built along the railway line and the roads. And goodness sake, what sort of planet are some of these people on?
Yeah, I think Brian might comment that there is two documents there, which
There's certainly two documents. The GPS is trying to bring into, as I said, integrate the rail plan into the overall GPS.
Yeah. Okay. So I think to move forward, we let this matter lay on the table. And I think, Stuart, if you called a meeting of your service delivery and get some members in, or whoever wants to contribute as well. I see Carolyn would like to contribute as well, and just flesh this out a bit more and bring it back to the next COVID meeting next Thursday. We've still got time before the 11th. I think the 11th of May it's got to be in by. I think that's the date. I think we've got time there anyway. So if you'd like to do that, Stuart, get some direction there. Good. Philippa, we just have to have a motion to let this lay on the table, I think, don't we?
That's correct. Yes, you do.
We'd like to move that we let the matter lay on the table. Carolyn and Lane, moved and seconded. All in favour, please raise your hands. Passed. Thank you. Next item of business is number 6, economic development. And I'll just flip to that through my screen. And we've got Bevan here. Yeah, 6, economic development in a post-COVID-19 environment. Bevan Rickaby, the author here. Welcome, Bevan. And I think looking at this, it's a very good initiative in the conditions we're in. Have you anything further to add, or we can go to questions?
I think just go straight to questions.
Okay. Angus?
I haven't got a question.
Okay, we'll do questions first, and we'll come back to you for a mover. Lynette?
I was just wondering, we haven't got anyone from ARA or the Polytechs on that committee, because to me, going forward, you know, we're going to need training and different things for people changing jobs and different directions. Should we have a Polytech or an institutional like that involved on the committee?
Neil, could I have a word on that, please,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Mayor?
Yep.
As you can see, I've actually put in there that we would have like ex officio someone from the Chamber of Commerce, and I think that's where ARA would sit on this. This is sort of the overarching people, so that they would advise maybe in the construction area or in the in the transport area that they need training, and then we would bring the training like ARA people on board to tell us then what they can actually do for us. So this is kind of the high level information committee.
Lane?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions. Is there a time limit on it? Is it just as long as we need it, this committee, or is it for the first 2 years? How do you see that?
I think, Elaine, it's one of those things, and you keep hearing it all the time. There is no textbook on the situation we're in at the moment. So I don't think we can actually put a time on it. It could be quite short, hopefully, as things speed up and come right really quickly, but I doubt it. But I wouldn't put a timeline on it at this stage.
Another question I've got, if I can, it's just on financial implications. You've got the what is the cost, and you said it might be another budget for special projects to help the district to recover. What do you see there? What is your idea?
I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, but I thought it was just we should just raise that there may be a situation where you as council may have to look at some funding.
Okay, Lane, it's not a committee; it's an advisory group, so it's not a committee of council, but council's organiser. Right, Hamish?
I was just thinking about Lane's question in relation to a term of the group, and when I was talking about this advisory group proposal with Bevan, in my mind was the guy from Infometrics talking about, if we recall a week ago to this committee, that they were predicting about 3.5 years before the economy gets back to pre-COVID levels. So it might not be a forever committee, but it's highly likely to see out the term of this council, and then the next council will make a call as to whether it's a group that should be reinstated.
Yeah, it's not a committee, Hamish, just an advisory group. So
apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Liz.
Thank you. And will they report back to council, or will that come through your mayor's report?
I'm not sure. That obviously terms of reference has to be drafted, and so that would say in there, I assume, how the reporting mechanism back to council would be. Is that correct, Hamish or Bevan?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Diane?
Thank you. I didn't really have a question. I think this is a great initiative. Having been on a funders forum meeting yesterday afternoon, which Bevan was on too, I think anything that council's doing is being well received at the moment. I think it's a very good chance for us to show leadership or to lead the leadership in the community. So I think I totally support it.
Okay, we'll go to you, Hamish. Oh, no, sorry, Angus, Angus.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would move that council establishes the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Advisory Group to be chaired by the Mayor. And I take note of the last point that is in the report, suggests there needs to be an advisory group made up of leaders. There's no suggestion at all, Mr. Mayor, in my mind. This is a have to do for this community to join together. In the past, any time that the Ashburton community has joined together, it has always won. We're big enough to do things ourselves, but we're not necessarily big enough to attract from the rest of New Zealand. So we have to get on and do it, and I think the initiative is absolutely brilliant. The only suggestion I would make is that consider putting manufacturers in the list, just to consider it. I'm thinking of some of the bigger manufacturers and exporters that we have around. For example, there's Ansco down there with 1,800 employees. Groups like that are going to have a fair say whether we like it or not. So we might as well have them in the cupboard as well. And I strongly suggest that you make it a report back in the Mayor's report. So you report each month or each council meeting of what's happening. but the initiative is brilliant and the report is very well written, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Angus. Angus moved it, and I take note of this old saying, united we stand and divided we fall, and this is certainly uniting. So this is exactly what we need. Who was second? I've got a few hands up, but who wants to? Lane, I saw you first. Seconded it. Anyone further want to speak to the motion? Roger. Or,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very, very well-written report and a very well-intentioned report, but I'm not so sure it will achieve too much. Call me old and cynical if you like. All I can see in this is more meetings, more reports, and everything going round and round in a circle. And I think council can do far more for our ratepayers by making the business environment as friendly and as easy to operate as possible, to make sure our infrastructure is as good as possible. And I think local government, along with central government, should get out of people's lives as much as they possibly can. I know Bevan said council's role extended beyond the more traditional infrastructure and welfare response and included supporting a wider economic, social, culture and environmental recovery. I'm not so sure that that is correct, and I will be voting against this motion, not because it's not well intended. It's very well intended and it's very well written, but I can't see it achieving what we think it might achieve.
thanks for those comments. Lane, sorry, I took a seconding off you, but I didn't see you had a question or a comment as well.
Sorry, no comment. I was just going to move the motion.
Oh, thanks. John?
Yeah, I just want to say I support Roger's comments 110%.
Carolyn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally disagree with Roger and John. I think the reality is that whether they want the council to be involved in the wellbeing and the environment and other aspects, the reality is that we are involved and we do have people in our community that, and we need to work a way forward that we can achieve the best outcomes for those people in our community and our ratepayers. So I would totally support the initiative and and congratulate Bevan and the team on developing this report.
Liz?
Thank you. I support it too. And the whole idea is to get people talking. And I think that's what the advisory group's going to do is get those people together and talk and work out ways to go forward.
Yeah. Bevan, just have a question. Who will select the members to be on the group?
That'll be a conversation that I'll have with you, Mr. Mayor, and also with Hamish.
Okay. So we wouldn't call for expressions of interest. We'll just shoulder tap, so to speak. Would that be the way to do it?
Yes, I think so. Because if we call for expressions of interest, we're going to then have to actually we could get a wider group. We have to pick some winners. I think we know our district pretty well, and I think we can between us pick the people that are going to make the difference.
And time is of the essence too, I think, in this situation. So the sooner we get going, the better, I think. Councillors, any further discussion there?
Yeah.
Angus, right of reply?
Yeah, right of reply, Mr. Mayor. I took on board the two councillors that were not in favour of this. I'd just like to remind them that a number of years ago, the then Mayor, Murray Anderson, called a meeting together to look at watering the rest of the Ashburton district. And I look at the benefit that has been to the majority of farmers, families, and especially to the town to create economic growth. I also look at the previous mayor headed a special committee on Bovis for the farmers that gave political presence and highlighted it within the community. I think, Mr. Mayor, that this committee will be the same. It will add the horsepower of the leaders of this district to go out and get things done for this district fully support it, and I ask those two councillors just to think of what other mayors have done in the past and the committees that they've had out there in the community, advisory groups, to get this district where it is today. I urge you all to unanimously support this recommendation.
I'm going to put the recommendation. I'm in favour. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Against? One against. John, you didn't vote, I don't think. John, which way did you vote? Did I miss your...
Correct. I'm not voting on it. As I say, I'm for the motion as for the nice words that's said, but I'm against it for what it will achieve. So therefore,
so
I'm
you
sitting
abstained.
on the fence.
Abstained. Okay. Passed. The motion is passed. Roger, do you want your vote against recorded or not? No. Okay. Thank you, councillors. Item number 7 on the agenda, COVID-19 lockdown update from the CE and the group managers. Hamish.
Could I just butt in, Hamish, and talk about our open for business? I can't hear you. So you're going like that. So sorry. There is just one other thing around that has happened in the week. So we haven't been able to get to you, and you may have seen in the paper today about the new website that we've been building, and I would like to show that to you if that is okay, Mr. Mayor. Everyone's gone quiet.
Yeah, okay. That'll getting this technology to work. Yeah, that'd be good if you got a presentation or a short presentation.
Yeah, well, I've got the I've actually got it's actually up and working. And so if it's okay, I'll share it on the screen, and then
okay, let's do that. Yep.
Yeah, then everyone can actually see it, and so you can see that.
Yes, we can.
Right. So this has been a fabulous team effort, I must say, and I know Ruben's there in the background. Ruben and myself had a conversation around how we were going to do a buy local, shop local, which was something that was coming through quite clearly from councillors and also from other members in the management team at the council. So it's only been a week since we started this project, and we've managed to build a website. The website developers have managed to build this website so that everyone in the community can put their business up and show how it's what position they're actually in. And at the moment, obviously with level 3 coming up. So I just have a quick run through it. Happy to answer any questions as we go. So that's what your front page looks like. And what you do is the business just clicks on there, which is get on board, and they put in all their details. All those details then stay hidden until either myself or Verity just go through and just check to make sure that they're not saying things that they shouldn't be saying, and then we bring them live. So you can see at the moment that we have got quite a few live already this morning. And so if you go to hotels at the moment at Bella Vista, you can see these little symbols here. If you go to details, there they are there. They're essential business. They've got discounts and coupons. They're offering all this going on, and they are actually open for business. If we go to Arabica Cafe in Methven, they're just saying from Tuesday the 28th, they'll be doing pre-orders. They will then update that as time goes on, that they are actually open. There is another menu bar up here which is got spread the word. So I would suggest that if you could click on that, all councillors, and spread it far and wide. So this is our business directory. As you can see here, if someone says I'm looking for a cafe. I know we've only got one cafe here. All they have to do is put in cafe, and it just goes to that. So there'll be all the lists of actual cafes. So it's going to be very easy to use, and extremely. Oops, sorry, gone back too far. Go back that way. It's going to be very, very easy for everyone to use, and we will be encouraging through the advertising we've got on television, radio, etc. Not television, newspaper and radio, for people to get on board. Now, and these are the ones that have come in this morning. We've only had it up live from this morning, so that's the Mid Canterbury Open for Business website, which is sitting there really, really nicely for everyone to see. So, any questions?
Right, Bevan, that's good. I just have one question, and if I obviously you're not allowed to have contact with these businesses, and it's all to be done sort of remotely. So if I wanted to order something from, say, the Formosa restaurant for a takeaway, would I be able to click on there and make my order, or do I have to do something else?
Yeah, no, you'll be able to click on there. If you go, say, a Rebecca Cafe there in Methven, their website is there, and well, in this case, their Facebook, you go directly to their Facebook, and it'll give you all the information about what you want to do. If you go here to Bella Vista, you just go, you just click straight there, go straight into Bella Vista, and they'll have all their actual details. This, if you like, Mr. Mayor, is a road sign, so everyone can put their name. It's the road sign back to the business, because there's been a development, if you've seen around Facebook and other places, where people have been trying to put up all their cafes, or they've been putting up that they're going to be open as panel beaters or whatever. This is kind of what we're doing here, was bringing everything together into one place.
It sounds great. So it's good. John, you had a question?
Not a question. I'd just like to congratulate Bevan and his team for putting together such a pragmatic solution to an issue we have at the moment. As I say, congratulations to you all.
Good. Thanks.
Well, I think Reuben hasn't had a lot of sleep talking with the developers in the background over the time, because I don't understand some of the stuff that goes in there. So I think, thank you, John. It's across the teams, really, and I know Reuben's here. You got anything to add, Reuben?
No, it's just been a really exciting project to work on, realizing the need in the community to not only cater to businesses at this time when they are struggling during this lockdown period, but also building a tool and a foundation that will outlive the COVID-19 environment that we're living in now, a tool that consumers, customers, residents in the district can easily access information about their businesses in the district in this easy-to-use search filtered type of a format that we've presented. And back to the point, Mr. Mayor, that you made, we're simply providing the directory information for those businesses, and would encourage anyone to give them a call, touch base with them. And I think that they're going to really appreciate hearing from customers, especially during this time where they've been closed for a long period of time, and have some of that excitement come back into our economy, where folks are eager. And just like the slogan here that we've put at the very top, local businesses are raring to reopen again. And so we wanted to provide this to them. We're really great and happy to work with Bevan's team to put something together that is easy to use and penetrates through the noise out there in terms of marketing and communications, just to provide a centralized tool that everybody can use. And what we're doing is not only providing the tool here, but we're putting in some effort in marketing as well. So you'll see this brand and campaign. And if Bevan, if you can just go to the spread the word menu item, if you would. What we've done is we want people to share this information. And so what we've created is this page specific with resources that people can just take right off the website, share it on their Facebook pages, put it in their Facebook groups, perhaps. We've also got some advert samples here that people can easily take away. The idea is that we're creating a brand, hopefully, that will be communicated throughout the district, so that we bring that that vibe of we're back and open for business again in Mid-Canterbury. So we're really excited to be part of this, and I think it's going to be a huge help for our community.
Yeah, that's good, Ruben. It's good going, and I've even seen it on Facebook pages this morning. It's even out there now. People are sharing it, which is really good. And there's the old saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and this is helping that, assisting in that getting going. Liz, your question?
Not so much a question, but just a comment. It just looks fantastic, and to think a week ago we made the recommendation for this to go forward. So you've done a lot of work. But yeah, I think this is what local businesses have been crying out for. I had a couple of cafes asked me to do a list up on Facebook of just who was going to be open once we got to level 3 next week. So we've made a list, but I've also been sharing this morning, and I see it was advertised in the Snowfed online, which came out last night. So fantastic. I think it's great. I think it's just what we need at the moment, and it'll be just such an asset carrying on after COVID.
Exactly right. And who said councils move at a slow pace? That's just not correct. Thanks for that, Bevan. Hamish, so you might be ready to, if you're finished there, Bevan, you have, thanks.
Yep, I have. I'll drop that out for you.
Thanks very much.
Where
we were.
What have I done wrong? Stop the share. There we go.
Then Hamish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to lend my support to the thanks for the team that has got this together, and I'm delighted to hear councillors acknowledge the effort that was required, and certainly to Ruben, Bevan, their teams, the website developer, but also our local media outlets at the Guardian, the Courier, and Hokanui Radio. They've all lent their support to make this possible within a week. So a genuine joint effort that has taken a lot of work, but it's really satisfying and rewarding to do such a positive thing at this time. So just acknowledging our thanks to everyone that's been involved. From a wider point of view, a lot of what the councillors staff are doing at the moment, of course, is getting ready for level 3. And there's an amount of information flowing from Wellington, from the joint central government, local government advisory group, and the guidelines that are coming out are helpful, and we're seeing a lot more detail at this point than we did on the way up the escalation ladder. But inevitably there's still areas of grey and slight interpretations and what's allowed and what's not. So we're trying to do our very best to get those services that council has up and running under level 3 that we can. Equally, we still believe we've got the guidelines must guide us, and if they say something can't be done, then that's how we have to do it. And things under level 3 that still can't be open, we still can't open the library, the museum, or EA Network Centre. In Neil McCann's area, there was a return to some work, particularly work that was already underway. There was a return to more normal levels of work in the roading network. But there are still levels of pieces of activity that are deemed not to be undertaken at level 3. So our hope is level 3 is we move on from level 3 as soon as possible, obviously safely, etc., etc. But in terms of getting facilities back up and running closer to normal, level 2 will be a more dramatic shift, if you like, than level 3. So hopefully we're not at level 3 for too long. Of course, even those things that are coming back, and if you think of open spaces, we're now allowed to mow the lawns around the year and keep our parks and reserves tidy, which is great. But there's still the restrictions on social distancing and increased emphasis on hygiene. So even where things that have been closed are starting up, it's not back to how they were before COVID in terms of operations. And we're seeing across the economy there is talk about things being a little bit slower, that the social distancing at work does mean that things aren't as easy or as quick as they might have been. And we're just reinforcing with our people that the hygiene and the banking, the gains that Level 4 has made comes first. And if things take a little bit longer or are a little more cumbersome, then that's what you have to do in order to keep both themselves and the rest of the community safe. And we're seeing the same thing in some of the conversations with our big construction contracts that we had to put to bed at lockdown. I'm thinking particularly the CBD and the sewage pipe and pump station works, that the conversations with those companies around how they may not be able to work at quite the same speed as they were able to pre-lockdown is a very real constraint that somewhere along the line has ramifications, certainly on time and potentially cost pressure. So all those things we're working hard to get right and try and manage. And we're looking forward to next Tuesday, so that at least some of our services get back a little bit closer to normal. So
there we go. There was a hand up, but it's gone down. I was just thinking, a lot of the questions that's coming in, it might be a question for Neil McCann, is around the Resource Recovery Park. Come Tuesday, what can will it be open? And if it is, what can we drop off or what can't we drop off? That sort of thing. If you've got any guidance there, Neil?
Through you, the Mayor, we are currently working through the final details with EnviroWaste. Obviously, they've got to take into consideration of keeping not only their staff safe, but the members of the public. So we are intending to open all services at the Resource Recovery Park. So that'll be all rubbish drop-off, green waste, recycling. So that's the intention, to open all of that up. However, there will be rather strict restrictions in so far as we'll only allow probably 3 vehicles in at a time. So there will be delays in people getting in and out. We'll have to do contact tracing, getting the information of all the users and people as they come in and go. So it's just the details being worked through now, and we'll release that in a media release later on today as we firm up all the detail. They've got to look at sort of access in one lane and just managing the traffic so that people aren't getting close to each other and that everyone's being kept safe in the whole process. So, but the good news is it's going to be fully operational. There will be a big wave of expectation of people to come and drop off all their rubbish that's been piling up. So we're going to carefully manage that next week by from Tuesday, we'll open it up to the commercial operators for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to take all their rubbish and green waste. And then from the Saturday onwards, it'll be back to everyone be able to drop off the stuff. So just the normal members of the public will be able to, from Saturday next week, be back to normal. So that's the whole intention. And get onto the curbside collection from Monday. We'll be back to the usual curbside collection with the yellow bin only for plastic and paper recycling, and then the curbside bin for glass. So that'll be back to normal from next week on Monday.
So what about the Park at Require? Is it under the same rules?
Park at Require will be open as well, and there may just be restricted hours. So these are the bits and pieces of detail that we're just finalising, and we'll have all that information out this afternoon.
Great, thanks for that update, Neil. Sarah, Jane, or Paul, have you anything to add from your departments? Sarah. Anything to add? Nothing to add, Jane? Or
the only thing I was going to add, Mr. Mayor, was just a wee short update about some redeployments with Open Spaces staff now going back, well, at level 3 going back to work, as we've already said. We've rotated them out, and a number of EA sports facilities staff are going to rotate into the CBAC to help at the community assessment centre. So that's a change for them, and it's fantastic that we can continue to support this for the community, and also perform other tasks such as Meals on Wheels driving, and other prescriptions and food deliveries as well to the people we need to.
Great, thanks for that update, Sarah, on the people. That's great. Jane, did you have anything?
Oh, just one thing that I was going to add, Mr. Mayor, is that building inspections will resume next week. There are pretty strict conditions applying to ensure safe distancing and the like. So when people ring up to book an inspection, they'll be asked a few questions, and then the process will be explained to them. And our civil defence team have moved out of the council chamber back into a meeting room in the main admin building. It's been very quiet, which is a good thing. People in Mid-Canterbury are obviously well supported. There have not been a lot of calls coming through on the 0800 number.
Great, thanks for that. Good. And Paul, I was just thinking about your department. We've got a rates instalment coming up in May 20th. I think it's May 20th. Some people normally pay by cash. How is that going to work for them, or are you working out a system for that happening? Because they normally come into the office and pay over the counter.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we have been talking about how we're going to deal with that, and we're still developing that. The penalty date is the 20th of May, so there are a lot of people that still pay by cash, so we're still looking at how we're going to deal with it. And we'll put some information out once we finalise how we deal with that.
Great, thanks for that. Hamish?
Just to follow Paul's comments, at level 3 the office is still closed, so that there's no ability for us at level 3 to operate with people coming into the customers coming into the building. But at level 2 that does change. So one of the balances for us is thinking about how we manage and deal with cash on the by due date. Is it might be quite different by the penalty date than it is when the notices first go out. We're really lucky here. We get great support from a number of ratepayers who prefer to pay by cash, and they often come in when they first get the rates notice, and the office will be closed when that notice first goes out, but perhaps before the penalty date we will be able to reopen. So those are some of the tricky kind of scenarios that we're trying to work through to make it as easy as possible for people. And we're also mindful of Council's conversations a couple of weeks ago around the be generous with the remission of any penalties on instalment 4 caused by inconvenience in COVID, so that if it all gets really gnarly by the 20th of May, then we have the capacity not to penalise those who would have otherwise paid by cash.
Yeah, great. So that's all good stuff. Nothing further to add? I don't think so. So that, I think, takes us to the end of the open part of the meeting. So thank you all for your attendance, and we're going to move into committee, but we're going to probably have a 5-10 minute break just between now and doing the in-committee stuff, which there's not a lot of at all. So I'll move that we move into committee. Can I have a seconder? Diane, all in favour? Good. We're now in committee. So thank you. And we're going to